let's talk about Larian Studios, man. Larian Studios have officially said that they aren't planning to release expansions, DLC, any brand new content for Baldur's Gate 3 or anything about a Baldur's Gate 4. Larian said they plan to move away from Dungeons and Dragons entirely and do something new. The IP is going to be left with the Wizards of the Coast. They're done with anything Baldur's Gate. How do you feel about this?
I think it's good for Larian Studios. I love Baldur's Gate 3. I think it's a game that like similar to how I feel about Risk of Rain 2. That's a game that 10, 20 years from now I can be like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and tap back in. Like I'm gonna go ahead and boot that shit back up because it is something that is so special and so good. It doesn't need not that I wouldn't love a Baldur's Gate 4 or Baldur's Gate 5, but it's something that I don't think is going to fade away. I think it's cemented itself as one of the best games of all time. The reason I think that this is good for Larian is just the simple fact that Wizards of the Coast truly, and when I say this, are some of the most money hungry people I've ever seen in my life. They are the people who own the D&D IP, and if their movements around like content creation or any indication of how money hungry they are, I can only imagine the pressure that they were trying to put for Larian Studios because they didn't make Larian Studios did everything, right? All that D&D, all that Wizards of the Coast did was say, hey, you can use
Yeah,
D&D
they
shit.
licensed it out for what I'm learning. Again, I wasn't privy to what Wizards of the Coast even was, but then shout out, I think it was Corliss that talked to me about it, and Ginseng a little bit in the Twitter text. I had no idea who they were, and they were like, yeah, they own all that stuff, and then like they just license it out and stuff like that. And from again just a little bit of research and digging, they're very fucking strong-handed with that type of stuff. Oh my gosh,
Yes.
that looks bad. It's a bad look. Again, like that's like what we talk about with how bad monopolies can get. It looks a lot like that in some way, bro. Like, but continue.
Yeah. And like as somebody who I played D&D years ago when I was younger. When I was in college, I played D&D all the time with the homies. And I remember I was around when D&D Beyond first came out, which was like, hey, we're making a system because back then all you could do was like go on Reddit and there'd be people who like took Excel sheets and would make D&D like got D&D like sheets that you could like actively move around and like I'm gonna put my stats in here and it will automatically calculate how much damage I do if I land the hit type shit, right? I remember when D&D Beyond first came out and I was like, oh, so they made this system. And in my mind, like a rational human being, I thought, well, what they're probably going to do is if you own the books, maybe you could like scan it or look up, the little QR code not the QR code, but the little barcode on the back and be like, oh, I bought this. Can I use it on D&D Beyond? Or maybe when you buy a book, they'll be like, hey, here's your code to unlock it on D&D Beyond. It's like, no, you got to rebuy all the books. And it's not like I bought my D&D book, my beginner's guide or my adventurer's guide, I can't remember what it's called, but the one that you use to build your character, from like a secondhand store. They were like, yo, we got this book. I mean, obviously a little beat up, but it's a fucking book.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool, I got it for cheap. That shit is pretty expensive for a book. And the fact that I got to repay for that on top of paying monthly, because you also have to pay monthly just to use the service. I was like, yo, these motherfuckers are really money hungry. So when I hear Larian is like, yo, we're moving away from this, it makes sense to me because I played Divinity 1, I played Divinity 2. Truth be told, they really don't need Wizards of the Coast. I love D&D. I love the D&D franchise. I love like the classes, all that shit, but they can't stop you from making somebody who is a shapeshifter as a class. Like, yo, yeah, there's Druid, but what if I just made a shapeshifter who can also turn into animals? Or like, if you want to come at me legally, fine. I'll change it so that they can only turn into monsters. Like, there's avenues. The thing is about it is that Larian is so creative and just playing their game. They know what the fuck they're doing. They can easily do everything they just did without like affecting Wizards of the Coast at all. They don't need Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast need Larian. And the fact that like Wizards of the Coast are known for people, I remember, I think it was a summer where a lot of people who make D&D content were absolutely livid that Wizards of the Coast were trying to ask for a percentage of their income because they were playing D&D on stream. And that's something that, to put it into context for gamers out there, imagine if you're an Overwatch streamer and Overwatch said, hey, you need to start paying us for every Overwatch video and stream that you do. Every time you make money on Overwatch, while you're playing Overwatch, you need to send us a check. It's wild. It's similar to the music industry, right? Like if you use music in any art or whatever you do, you have to pay them. But like that is something that is very different because they never did their own little D&D Beyond. They never did their own little like Critical Role. They didn't decide to do that. Other people did it and they're like, now we want our check. It's not uncommon, but it's that kind of like mentality of like, I'm gonna charge every single person who makes D&D content to give me my bread. Like you can't be mad at it. Actually, no, you can't be mad at it. It's one of those like, are they allowed to? They are allowed to, but all that's gonna do is make people less likely to engage with your shit. And I'm sure Larian had to pay a huge chunk of money to Wizards of the Coast just to make this game that took them 6 years to make. And I'm sure it hurts them more to have to walk away from this franchise. But at the end of the day, I know it is the right decision for them because now that they have this skill, they have this under their belt, they can come out with Divinity. They could come out with like Divinity Origins or whatever, like a franchise built in a D&D world with their systems. There is only up from here. They cannot possibly go backwards. They are really talented. Wizards of the Coast, however, they're going to take that little Baldur's Gate franchise, they're going to sell it to another company. It's not going to be as good because they're going to probably try to like, they're not going to give Larian the same, they're not going to give that new company the same grace they gave Larian. They're just going to be like, yo, make us some money, da 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 da. And it's going to be sad to see. I have yet to see a game that's done what Larian has done with Baldur's Gate 3. And I'm talking Rogue Trader. I'm talking like Kingmaker. Like there's a bunch of games similar to it that cannot capture it. They're good, but they're not them. And it's really bad for Wizards of the Coast. And it's looking really bad for them in general because I've never seen, it would be like Rockstar walking away from like if they were like, yo, we're not making GTA anymore. Take-Two actually owns it. We're done making GTA. You'd be like, well, why the fuck don't they want to make any more GTA games? That game was amazing. It's like, maybe because the people who own it or whatever are in big issues. Obviously, Rockstar owns GTA, but you get the idea.
Yeah. And yeah, again, coming as an outsider, I didn't really, like, I wasn't privy to much of the D&D world, again, before Baldur's Gate 3, honestly. And again, I knew a couple of things, but I wasn't, like, deep into it and didn't know the inner workings of how businesses were set up and what the hierarchy of even licensing was. Looking at this, like, from my view, more people know Larian than they know Wizards of the Coast at this point in time. At least from an outsider's perspective.
In the gaming space.
In the gaming space. Let me clarify that. In the gaming space, more people know Larian than they know Wizards of the Coast. You know what I mean? And since at this point, Baldur's Gate 3 has gotten so big, and the main name that's going to be behind that is Larian. Looking at it, most people are going to be checking for what Larian does next. Not what Wizards of the Coast is going to license out next or blah, blah, blah. They don't fucking care about that. It's about what Larian does next. And now that it hit me that they did Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2, like, oh, they can go back to that. Again, like you said, they can go back to that and kind of build out a whole new world with what they've learned from the process of Baldur's Gate 3. They can go whichever way they want and whatever pathway that they set, you're going to have a flock of millions who have seen your work and in making one of the best games of all time. Like, yo, what do you do next, Larian? What's your next move, Larian? Not where's Baldur's Gate 4? No. Larian's name has been directly attached and very closely associated with Baldur's Gate 3 throughout its entire run. And I feel like that is going to help it in the long run. And when making a brand new experience, they can take their time, they can work on whatever's coming next. And whenever people say the name Larian, they're like, oh shit, they made Baldur's Gate 3, we here. They don't need it. They don't need the hype of Baldur's Gate's IP. They've already built enough clout and credibility off of their own name to do whatever the fuck they want next. And I think that's a very freeing thing. I hope they feel that. I hope they really do feel how freeing that is and how well earned that is, you know, to earn the trust of so many people, again, through their work and what they've done. You know, people who are either first timers, you know what I'm saying, who are like, again, very unfamiliar with the D&D franchise like me, or people who are vets, people who have been there before, like when, you know what I mean? Having that earned title, that earned status, and to be able to go through what you want. And seeing how much shit you have to go through just to even get a game from the D&D world out, I don't blame them. I don't fuck fuck Baldur's Gate. I don't give a fuck about Baldur's Gate. Like, yo, you know how much it's gonna cost me? You know how bad it is for these people, like how bad it is to just dealing with these people on a weekly basis? I have no clue. I assume it must be fucking terrible given the consensus on how Wizard of the Coast runs. Like, that's something that is very, very much. I don't think it's a hard decision. I don't think it's a hard decision for them at all. They put in their blood, sweat, and tears to make something that they really wanted. That's a passion project. They're setting it down. They're hanging the rafter. Looks, we made some of the best D&D content out of any fucking medium ever. We can set our hats on that and move on to some shit that we want to do that won't kill us financially. Like, that's perfectly fine, and they can build out a story and capture that same DNA that they've had from Baldur's Gate 3. Because at the core of Baldur's Gate 3, it's Larian. They're what's making this whole thing tick. Because like you said, there are other people that had the D&D property, but they can't capture the feeling like how Larian does. They can put that into whatever they see fit now. So it's just up to them. It's really up to them to see what they do next. But honestly, I'm happy for them. I'm happy for them, and I don't think anybody should be disappointed. You know what I'm saying? The more you read into the situation, you shouldn't be disappointed on why they decided, hey, let's leave this shit here. Let's move on to bigger pastures, because we know we can do better and we can work in better conditions than what they were again across the 6-7 year cycle of making Baldur's Gate 3. They're on to bigger and better things, and we should be proud of them for that, and nobody again should really be disappointed in their decision.
Yeah. And another thing too is like it's the only thing that's sad about this whole situation for me is that, like, unfortunately this will not really hurt Wizards of the Coast in the long run, because they own Magic the Gathering, they own D&D, they own they own Magic the Gathering.
Damn.
So like they're making money. They're going to continue to make money, and so this doesn't even really seem like a loss to them, because all it will really do will be like, all right, we're going to give the franchise to some other company, and if the company does a great job, amazing for them. But if it doesn't, then they're still going to make money hand over fist, because they own such money generating IPs. And that's really just the sad part of it. But if you're a fan of Larian, if you're a fan of Baldur's Gate 3, I would say go download Divinity 2 right now, because that game is still amazing. Baldur's Gate 3 is amazing, but Divinity 2, like, and the mod community for that is fucking bananas. Like, I promise you, Larian will be okay. This is probably in their best interest. And honestly, I think it's such a bold move. I really hope that this like encourages other people who are making games for these ungrateful companies to, like, you know, branch out and do their own thing, because they did their time. It was like paying their dues. They did their time. You know us now. You've seen our game. So when we drop Divinity 3, Divinity 4, or whatever, you're gonna tap in because you enjoyed Baldur's Gate.
And I will never fault somebody for seeing what doing a great job with what they were, you know, the hand they were dealt, and doing something different, moving on to something else. Again, although it may be a sequel, it's something that nobody's really, again, played in comparison to Baldur's Gate 3. So it's like, oh shit, you know what I'm saying? Oh, we didn't know too much about Defending the Original Sin. Let's see what this is about. And you're bringing something new to the table. You're bringing something different. That's a novel experience that a lot of people haven't gotten to in the modern day in comparison to a Baldur's Gate. So like, I'm an advocate for stuff like this. I'm an advocate for going to new pastures and letting your creativity flow in new ways and not get stuck in the same rivers and streams. So I love it. I love it.